Narrator, welcome to Hitler's Lost Legacy, a deep dive into one of history's most enigmatic figures and the mysteries that linger long after his death. Adolf Hitler, the man who plunged the world into its deadliest conflict, left behind not just devastation, but a trail of unanswered questions. What happened to his body? Where did the Nazi treasures vanish? And how does his poisonous ideology still echo today? Over the course of this series, we'll uncover the facts, sift through the myths, and explore the lost pieces of Hitler's empire. Buckle up, this isn't just history, it's a warning from the past. Let's start at the beginning. Born in 1889 in a small Austrian town, Adolf Hitler was an unremarkable kid. He dreamed of being an artist, but Vienna's art schools rejected him twice. Bitter and broke, he drifted through life, painting postcards to scrape by. Then came World War I. Hitler volunteered for the German army, serving as a messenger on the Western Front. He got wounded, earned an Iron Cross, but the wars crushed him. Germany surrendered. The Treaty of Versailles stripped the nation of territory and pride, and hyperinflation wiped out savings. In this chaos, Hitler found his calling. By 1919, he joined a tiny fringe group called the German Workers' Party. He quickly rose through the ranks, renaming it the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazis for short. Hitler's charisma was electric. He railed against the November criminals who signed the armistice, blamed Jews and communists for Germany's woes, and promised to restore greatness. His speeches packed beer halls in Munich. In 1923, he tried to coup the beer hall putsch, but it flopped. Jailed for treason, he used the time to write Mein Kampf, his manifesto of hate. It sold poorly at first, but it laid out his twisted vision: a pure Aryan race, Lebensraum in the East, and the elimination of undesirables. Released after 9 months, Hitler rebuilt the party. The Great Depression hit in 1929, and unemployment soared to 6 million. Germans were desperate. Hitler positioned the Nazis as the answer, with slick propaganda, stormtroopers for muscle, and alliances with big business. By 1932, the Nazis were the largest party in the Reichstag. President Hindenburg, reluctant but cornered, appointed Hitler chancellor in January 1933. What followed was a blitz of power grabs. The Reichstag fire in February blamed on communists let Hitler suspend civil liberties. He passed the Enabling Act, turning Germany into a dictatorship. Opponents vanished into concentration camps like Dachau. By August 1934, Hindenburg died, and Hitler declared himself Führer. The swastika flew everywhere, and the Third Reich was born. But this rise set the stage for unimaginable horror. As Europe edged toward war, Hitler's ambitions grew. In 1938, he annexed Austria in the Anschluss, then bullied Britain and France at Munich to grab Czechoslovakia's Sudetenland. Appeasement failed. Narrator, by 1933, Adolf Hitler had absolute power in Germany. The Führer wasted no time reshaping the nation. He crushed trade unions, banned all other political parties, and turned the press into a propaganda machine under Joseph Goebbels. The Gestapo, the secret police led by Heinrich Himmler, hunted down dissenters. Night of the Long Knives in 1934 eliminated rivals like Ernst Röhm. Consolidating Hitler's control over the SA and SS, Germany was now a one-man state. Economically, Hitler defied the Versailles Treaty. He rearmed in secret at first, then openly. Unemployment dropped as factories churned out tanks, planes, and guns. The Autobahn highways symbolized progress, while the 1936 Berlin Olympics showcased a strong, unified Germany to the world. Behind the scenes, the regime prepared for conquest. Hitler's foreign policy was bold and calculated. In 1935, he reintroduced conscription and announced the Luftwaffe. Britain and France protested weakly. In 1936, German troops marched into the demilitarized Rhineland, another violation of Versailles. The world did nothing. Emboldened, Hitler eyed Austria. The Anschluss came in March 1938. Austrian Nazis staged riots, and Hitler sent troops across the border. Austria was absorbed into the Reich without a shot fired. Crowds cheered as Hitler returned to his birthplace, Linz. Next came Czechoslovakia, claiming the Sudetenlands. German-speaking people needed protection. Hitler threatened war. At the Munich conference in September 1938, British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, French Premier Édouard Daladier, and Italian dictator Benito Mussolini met Hitler. They agreed to hand over the Sudetenland in exchange for peace. Chamberlain returned to London waving the paper, declaring, "Peace for our time." It was a fatal mistake. Appeasement had failed. Hitler took the rest of Czechoslovakia in March 1939. Then he turned to Poland, demanding the free city of Danzig and a corridor through Polish territory. He secretly signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with Stalin's Soviet Union in August 1939. This non-aggression treaty shocked the world and included a secret protocol to divide Poland between them. On September 1, 1939, at 4:45 am, the German battleship Schleswig-Holstein opened fire on a Polish garrison in Danzig. Panzer divisions crossed the border, Luftwaffe bombers struck cities, and the Blitzkrieg began. Britain and France declared war 2 days later. World War II, the deadliest conflict in human history, had erupted. Hitler's gamble had paid off so far. His forces overwhelmed Poland in weeks. By 1940, Denmark, Norway, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France fell in rapid succession. The world watched in horror as the swastika flag flew over Paris. Hitler's thousand-year Reich seemed unstoppable. In the summer of 1940, Adolf Hitler stood at the height of his power. France had fallen. Western Europe was under Nazi control, and Britain stood alone. Hitler believed the war would end quickly. He offered peace terms to Winston Churchill's government, terms that were rejected outright. Churchill vowed to fight on the beaches, in the fields, and never surrender. Hitler launched Operation Sea Lion, the planned invasion of Britain. But first, he needed air superiority. The Battle of Britain began in July 1940. The Luftwaffe, under Hermann Göring, bombed British airfields, cities, and radar stations in a massive aerial campaign. Day after day, RAF Spitfires and Hurricanes scrambled to meet the German Messerschmitts. The Royal Air Force, outnumbered but determined, held the line. By October, the Luftwaffe suffered heavy losses. Hitler postponed the invasion indefinitely. For the first time, the unstoppable war machine had been stopped. Frustrated in the West, Hitler turned east, his true obsession. He had always dreamed of Lebensraum, living space for the Aryan race in the vast Soviet Union. He saw communism and Jews as twin enemies to destroy. In December 1940, he issued Directive 21, Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union. On June 22, 1941, over 3 million German troops, plus allies from Romania, Hungary, Italy, and Finland, smashed across a 180-mile front. Panzer armies raced forward, encircling Soviet forces in massive pockets. By autumn, millions of Soviet soldiers were captured or killed. German forces reached the outskirts of Leningrad, besieged the city, and advanced toward Moscow. Hitler was convinced victory was near. He declared the Red Army finished. But the Soviet Union was vast, and winter was coming. Stalin's scorched earth policy left little for the invaders. Supply lines stretched thin. Then, in December 1941, the weather turned brutal. Temperatures dropped to -40 degrees. German soldiers, unprepared for winter, froze in their summer uniforms. Soviet counterattacks, fueled by fresh Siberian divisions, pushed the Wehrmacht back from Moscow. Meanwhile, across the globe, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. Hitler, bound by the Tripartite Pact, declared war on the United States 4 days later. Now, the war was truly global. The United States entered with full force, bringing industrial might that would eventually overwhelm the Axis. By 1942, cracks appeared in the Reich. The Holocaust intensified. Death camps like Auschwitz began full operation. Resources drained, and the tide began to turn. Narrator, by early 1943, the myth of Hitler's invincibility shattered. The Battle of Stalingrad became the bloodiest in history. German 6th Army, trapped in the city, fought house to house in freezing ruins. Hitler refused surrender, calling it a fortress. In February 1943, over 91,000 starving, frostbitten Germans surrendered, the largest capitulation in German military history. Paulus, the commander, defied Hitler's orders and gave up. The Wehrmacht lost nearly 1 million men in the campaign. The tide had decisively turned. In North Africa, Allied forces squeezed Erwin Rommel's Afrika Korps. By May 1943, Axis troops surrendered in Tunisia, another 250,000 prisoners. Italy, Hitler's ally, wavered. Mussolini was overthrown in July 1943, arrested, and Italy switched sides after Allied landings. Hitler rescued Mussolini in a daring raid, installing him as a puppet in northern Italy. But the southern front drained resources. The greatest blow came on June 6, 1944 D-Day. Over 156,000 Allied troops stormed Normandy beaches under Eisenhower's command. American, British, Canadian forces faced fierce resistance but broke through. By August, Paris was liberated. Hitler's Atlantic Wall crumbled. In the east, the Red Army launched Operation Bagration, destroying Army Group Center and advancing relentlessly toward Germany. Desperate, Hitler launched his last major offensive, the Battle of the Bulge in December 1944. German panzers surprised Allied lines in the Ardennes, but fuel shortages, bad weather clearing, and fierce American resistance stopped them. It was Hitler's final gamble, and a costly failure. Berlin became a fortress. Hitler retreated to his Führerbunker in January 1945 as Soviet artillery pounded the city. He ranted about betrayal and issued impossible orders. The Allies crossed the Rhine in March on April 3, 1945, with Soviet troops blocks away. Hitler and Eva Braun committed suicide. Their bodies were burned in the Reich Chancellery Garden. May 8, 1945 VE Day. Germany surrendered unconditionally. The Third Reich, promised to last 1,000 years, collapsed in 12. The war in Europe ended, but the full horrors: 6 million Jews murdered in the Holocaust, tens of millions dead emerged in the ruins. Hitler's legacy? Not glory, but ashes, guilt, and a world forever changed. Adolf Hitler's death in the Führerbunker on April 30, 1945, marked the end of the Third Reich, but not the end of his shadow. The world confronted the full scale of Nazi atrocities. The Holocaust claimed 6 million Jewish lives, along with millions of Roma, disabled people, political dissidents, and others in a systematic genocide. Liberation of camps like Auschwitz by Soviet forces in January 1945 revealed emaciated survivors, mass graves, and gas chambers, images that shocked humanity. The Nuremberg Trials from 1945 to 1946 brought top Nazi leaders to justice. Hermann Göring, Rudolf Hess, and others faced the International Military Tribunal. Most were convicted of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Some were executed, others imprisoned. These trials set precedents for international law, declaring following orders no defense. Denazification efforts in occupied Germany forced millions to fill out questionnaires, removing Nazis from public life, though many slipped through. In the decades since, Hitler's lost legacy lives on in disturbing ways. Neo-Nazi groups, white supremacist organizations, and far-right extremists still invoke his ideology. Symbols like the swastika appear at rallies. Online forums spread Holocaust denial, and some politicians echo authoritarian rhetoric. In the United States and Canada, events like the 2017 Charlottesville rally showed how Nazi-inspired hate can erupt into violence. The internet amplifies these voices, turning fringe ideas into mainstream threats. Yet, the true legacy is one of remembrance and vigilance. Memorials at Auschwitz, the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., and countless others educate millions. Never again became a global pledge. Laws against hate speech in many countries, including Canada, aim to prevent resurgence. Historians continue uncovering documents, debunking myths like the persistent conspiracy theories about Hitler's survival in Argentina, which forensic evidence has repeatedly disproven. Hitler's empire of hate crumbled in ruins. but the ideas he unleashed remind us how fragile democracy can be. Economic despair, scapegoating, propaganda, these ingredients still exist today. The lost legacy isn't just history, it's a cautionary tale for our time. We must confront it, learn from it, and ensure the horrors of the past never repeat. Thank you for watching Hitler's Lost Legacy. If this series moved you, like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. History isn't just the past, it's the foundation of our future. Even after his death, Adolf Hitler's story didn't end cleanly. Conspiracy theories exploded almost immediately. One of the most enduring myths claims Hitler escaped Berlin and fled to Argentina. Books, documentaries, and even declassified FBI files from the 1940s mention sightings of a double or secret submarine escapes. Witnesses claimed to see him in South America, living quietly until the 1960s or 72nd. But the evidence tells a different story. Soviet troops found charred remains in the Reich Chancellery Garden on May 2, 1945. Dental records confirmed by Hitler's dentist and assistant matched the jaw fragments. In 2018, French forensic experts examined the teeth held in Moscow and declared them authentic. No doubt about it, Hitler died by suicide in the bunker, cyanide, and a gunshot. The escape tales, fueled by sensationalism, forged documents, and the allure of mystery. No credible proof has ever surfaced. Other myths persist. That Hitler was Jewish, debunked by genealogy, or that he had one testicle, a British wartime song, not fact, or that he was a secret occultist, exaggerated, from early Nazi interest in mysticism. These stories distract from the real horror. More dangerous are the modern echoes. Neo-Nazi groups in the US, Canada, and Europe still idolize him. Online platforms host denial of the Holocaust, revisionist history, and calls for white ethnostates. The 2017 Charlottesville rally, with chants of "Jews will not replace us," showed how quickly hate can mobilize. In Canada, far-right cells have been monitored for spreading similar ideology. Yet hope lies in education. Museums like the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C., and Canada's own Holocaust education programs reach millions. Survivors' testimonies, school curricula, and laws against hate crimes serve as barriers. The key lesson: fascism doesn't arrive with fanfare. It creeps in through division, lies, and fear. Hitler's lost legacy is this: a world scarred, but wiser. We remember not to glorify, but to guard against repetition. The past warns us democracy is precious, fragile, and worth defending every day. This concludes Hitler's Lost Legacy. Thanks for joining this journey through darkness and light. Subscribe for more historical deep dives. And remember, history is our best defense against repeating it. Stay vigilant. As we wrap up this series on Hitler's lost legacy, zoom out to the bigger picture. 75 years after the fall of Berlin, the world has changed dramatically, yet the core dangers Adolf Hitler exploited remain eerily relevant. Economic inequality, political polarization, scapegoating of minorities, and the spread of disinformation through new technologies. These were the fuels of the Third Reich, and they're still burning today. In the United States and Canada, we've seen how far-right extremism can flare up. The January 6, 2021, Capitol attack echoed the beer hall putsch in its attempt to overturn democracy. Groups using Nazi-inspired symbols or rhetoric have been tracked by the FBI and CSIS, showing up at rallies or online. Holocaust denial persists on social media, often disguised as free speech debates. Meanwhile, authoritarian leaders worldwide borrow from Hitler's playbook, controlling media, demonizing opponents, and promising to restore national greatness. But there's strength in remembrance. Institutions like the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in D.C. and the Canadian Museum for Human Rights in Winnipeg keep the stories alive. Annual commemorations on International Holocaust Remembrance Day, January 27, remind us of the cost of hatred. Education is key. Schools in both countries teach about the Holocaust to build empathy and Critical thinking, laws against hate crimes and genocide denial help curb the spread. The real lost legacy isn't Hitler's survival myths or hidden treasures. It's the warning he left behind. Democracy doesn't die overnight, it erodes through apathy, division, and lies. Ordinary people enabled the Nazis through silence or complicity. Today, we have the tools to fight back: voting, speaking out, supporting inclusive policies, and calling out extremism early. Hitler wanted a 1,000-year empire of hate. Instead, he gave us a timeless lesson in humanity's capacity for both evil and redemption. The Third Reich ended in rubble, but vigilance must never end. Thank you for watching all 7 parts of Hitler's Lost Legacy. This journey through history was tough, but necessary. If it sparked reflection, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. History isn't dead, it's our guide. Stay informed, stay compassionate, and never forget. Here in 2026, as we reflect on Adolf Hitler's life and the cataclysm he unleashed, the lost legacy feels more urgent than ever. The Third Reich may have crumbled 81 years ago, but the forces that propelled it, economic hardship, nationalist resentment, propaganda, and dehumanization of the other, haven't vanished. They've evolved. In the United States, far-right groups continue to draw inspiration from Nazi ideology, often rebranded as patriotism or heritage. Canada has seen rises in anti-Semitic incidents and white supremacist activity, tracked by organizations like the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. Social media algorithms amplify division, much like Goebbels' radio broadcasts once did. Deepfakes and AI-generated content make disinformation easier to spread, echoing the big lie technique Hitler perfected. The Holocaust remains the starkest reminder. With survivors dwindling, their first-hand testimonies grow rarer. Yet denial and distortion persist online. In 2026, governments and platforms face ongoing battles against hate speech. With mixed success, education remains our strongest weapon. Programs in U.S. schools and Canadian curricula emphasize critical thinking, empathy, and the dangers of authoritarianism. Hitler's story isn't just about one man, it's about how ordinary societies can slide into extraordinary evil. The Weimar Republic had a constitution, elections, and a free press, yet it fell in months. Today, we see parallels in eroded trust in institutions, rising populism, and attacks on truth. But we also have advantages: global connectivity, historical awareness, and legal frameworks to fight back. The final lesson from Hitler's lost legacy? Complacency is the enemy. Democracy requires active defense, voting, community building, calling out bigotry, and supporting inclusive policies. The ruins of Berlin in 1945 showed what happens when hate wins. We honor the victims by ensuring it never does again. This is the end of our series, Hitler's Lost Legacy. Thank you for walking through this difficult history with us. If it stirred something in you, share it, discuss it, and act on it. History doesn't repeat exactly, but it rhymes. Let's make sure the next chapter is one of hope, not horror. Subscribe for more explorations of the past that shape our present. Stay aware, stay engaged, and never forget. As we reach the 9th and final part of Hitler's Lost Legacy, in this year 2026, it's time to close the circle. We've traced Adolf Hitler's rise from a failed artist to the architect of the deadliest war in history, his fall in the ruins of Berlin, the myths that followed, and the persistent echoes of his ideology today. But what truly endures is the human story, the millions of lives shattered, the survivors who rebuilt, and the generations who vow never again. The Holocaust wasn't inevitable. It was the result of choices by leaders, by institutions, and by ordinary people who looked away. In the United States and Canada, we've built strong safeguards, robust civil rights laws, active civil society, and education systems that confront the past head-on. Yet vigilance is required. Rising anti-Semitism, xenophobia, and political extremism remind us that the seeds of hate can sprout anywhere, anytime. Positive change is happening. Grassroots movements, interfaith dialogues, and digital literacy programs combat misinformation. Young people are leading the charge, using social media for good, sharing survivor stories, organizing against hate, and promoting unity. Museums and memorials in Washington, D.C., Toronto, and beyond serve as beacons, drawing visitors from all backgrounds to learn and reflect. Hitler's legacy is one of profound failure. He sought domination and purity. He delivered destruction and division. The true victors are those who survived, who testified, who rebuilt societies on principles of justice and human dignity. We honor them by living those values every day, standing against bigotry, defending truth, and protecting democracy. This series has been a somber journey, but one of purpose. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for watching all 9 parts. If this encouraged you to think deeper, talk to others, or take action, then we've succeeded. History isn't just dates and events. It's a mirror for our present and a map for our future. Please like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below, and share this series. Together, we keep the memory alive and the warning clear. The fight against hate never ends, but neither does hope. Until next time, stay informed, stay compassionate, and never forget,